morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to look at a Pokemon V, several parts of which might look a little bit familiar. It's Sableye V, and it's got Junk Hunt, but we'll get to that in a moment. So, Sableye V, not one I really expected to have a Pokemon V, but then again, maybe I should have done. I mean, let's face it, the Mega Sableye did go ahead and get a tag team. Pretty good one at that, so maybe I'm not giving it enough cred. I will say that the translation here comes from the lovely me using Google Translate, but I have checked with the lovely Joe from Cerebi.net, and to be honest, by the time you hear this, I'll probably have checked with a lovely David Hockman as well. So if we start off with the basics, 170 is low. Like, really low. The only other one we've seen that is down that low is Morpeko V, so Sableye is now the joint weakest of them in terms of HP. And we have a retreat cost of 2 here, which is honestly not particularly great. We're not huge fans of this. And we got a weakness to fighting, and the weakness to fighting is actually weird, because Sableye doesn't have a weakness. Like, seriously. The Sableye from Guardians Rising, Darkness type, no weakness. The Sableye from Lost Thunder, Psychic type, no weakness. The Sableye from Celestial Storm, Darkness type, no weakness. And the Mega Sableye and Tyranitar did have a weakness, but then again, Tyranitar also has a weakness, so that can be explained there. Did I say weakness to fighting? I meant weakness to grass. And this is going to get confusing because, of course, Darkness-type Pokemon in Sword and Shield have moved from their traditional fighting weakness to a grass weakness. As it stands at the moment, Welder decks are generally keeping grass decks in check. But if grass ever becomes big, and there's a big incentive for them to become big, this could be big. Dhelmise! I looked at Dhelmise V just a moment ago, and I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm kind of a fan. And you are a Darkness type, which means you're hitting weakness on Psychic Pokemon now. See Indeedee V as an example. It means that you can use Black Market Prism Star, so you give up 1 fewer prize. So, there's some good stuff about being a Darkness Pokemon. But what does it do? Well, ladies and gentlemen, stop me if you've heard this one before. The first attack for 1 Darkness Energy. Search your discard pile for a trainer card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Well, hang on a second. That sounds an awful lot like the Sableye from Dark Explorers. That sounds like Junk Hunt. Now, it's not exactly the same. Because, firstly, it is 1 card rather than 2. Secondly, it is a trainer card rather than an item. Which means that if you want to get yourself a stadium back, you are more than welcome to do so. Maybe, Chaotic Swell. And if you want to get yourself a supporter back, you are absolutely welcome to do so. Now, of course, the old Sableye was around at the same time as Versus Seeker, so if you wanted to get yourself a supporter back, you would just Junk Hunt for Versus Seeker, and then you would play the Versus Seeker to get yourself a supporter. Not an issue nowadays, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have Versus Seeker. So the fact that it gets you trainer cards back is actually very, very good. The fact that it's only 1 on a 2-prize Pokemon with weakness is actually kind of annoying. I mean, Sableye had 70 HP, no weakness. Sableye V has 170 HP, but a weakness. So it's not even that much bigger, and it gives up 2 prizes, but you can recover trainer cards. And frankly, recovering trainer cards, well, it depends what kind of trainer cards you're talking about. If you're talking about recovering stadium cards, we've got Lusamine. And if you're talking about supporters, we've also got Lusamine, but then we also have Cynthia and Caitlyn. So they're all right. But when it comes to recovering item cards, we just don't have very much. We used to have Puzzle of Time, but Puzzle of Time has been lost to the ether, by which I mean it rotated. So you can't use Puzzle of Time anymore. So recovering item cards isn't something you can do. And that's where Sableye V comes in here. Crushing Hammer, you're no longer limited to 4 per deck. Now you can essentially have an infinite number per deck. But this is where we really start to see the difference between getting 1 back and 2. Let's say I want to play a full-on energy denial deck. My opponent's attaching 1 energy per turn, fingers crossed for no welder decks, so I need to just get rid of 1 energy per turn. Now, one Crushing Hammer gives me a 50% chance of getting rid of an energy. It's even whether I may or may not get it. 2 Crushing Hammers gives me a 75% chance of getting rid of the energy. So although it's not guaranteed, I'm starting to feel pretty confident about getting rid of my opponent's energy now. I can miss it, there's a 1 in 4 chance and I will miss it, but I'm still starting to feel moderately confident about getting rid of it. Big difference in getting back 1 Crushing Hammer and 2. This lets me get back 1 Crushing Hammer. And that's kind of my problem here. I think it's a really, really good attack, but I don't think it's as good as we have seen in the past. And that's kind of a problem here. I love that you can get back any trainer card, but one of the beautiful things about Sableye was that it gave up a single prize. And actually, a lot of the later lists of Sableye would use Life Dew and Garbodor, so Garbodor would be blocking abilities, and then Sableye wouldn't be giving up a prize because it would be using Life Dew, because Life Dew stopped you giving up a prize, and then you'd be golden. You can stop yourself giving up a prize here if you attach Shedinja as a tool, and then pop down a Black Market Prism Star, then you will literally not give up a prize when KO'd, but it's kind of awkward. Make no mistake about it, recovering item cards is good. Recovering trainer cards generally is good. But the fact that you only recover 1, the fact that you give up 2 prizes, and the fact that you now do have a weakness, make no mistake about it, this is not Junk Hunt 2.0. Well, I suppose it is Junk Hunt 2.0, but Junk Hunt 2.0 is significantly weaker than Junk Hunt 1.0. The good news is the second attack here does a beastly amount of damage. For 2 Darkness Energy, you do 10 damage base, which isn't particularly good, and then you do an extra 60 damage for every damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. That's gigantic. Like, that's ridiculous, right? That is a huge, redonkulous amount of damage. Being able to do 60 more, I mean, put it this way. Let's say you put 3 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. You're hitting 190 for 2 energy. 190 for 2 energy, except they've already got 3 damage counters on, so you're actually hitting 220, and 220 will get even the beefiest Pokemon V we've seen so far, like, for instance, Snorlax V. This adds up extremely quickly. So the question here really becomes, alright, how do we do this? How do we get enough damage on to really make the most of this? And the thing is, we've actually got a bunch of ways of doing so. So remember how in Cosmic Eclipse we got that new Volcarona GX? I do, ladies and gentlemen. And that new Volcarona GX has a rather nice ability, Flaming Shot. Once during your turn before you attack, you may discard a fire energy from your hand. If you do, put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So Volcarona puts 2 damage counters down, and then you hit 130, that's a total of 150. Yeah, that's quite a lot, ladies and gentlemen. That'll add up pretty gosh darn quickly. We've also got the combination of Roxy and Coughing and Wheezing, also from Cosmic Eclipse. Roxy lets you discard 2 Pokemon from your hand, drawing 3 cards for each Pokemon you discard, and both Coughing and Wheezing, when you discard them, put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon. Yeah, that's quite nice. I showed you the new Galarian Zigzagoon from Sword and Shield recently. That does, well, when you play it, you can put 1 damage counter on one of your opponent's Pokemon, which I know is kind of small, but you can always use stuff like Super Scoop Up to try and increase this. And then, of course, we've got Shrine of Punishment. Shrine of Punishment is great. It puts 1 damage counter on each Pokemon EX and GX in play between turns, yours and your opponent's. Except Sableye, as we mentioned a moment ago, it's not a Pokemon EX or GX. It's a Pokemon V. Which means you can play Shrine of Punishment to drop damage counters on your opponent's EX and GX, and they don't hurt you. Now, obviously, if you choose to play Volcarona for the damage, yes, alright. But I'm assuming that if you're going to be going down the Shrine of Punishment route, you'll be going kind of Roxy Shrine of Punishment rather than going Volcarona. The point I'm making here is that you've got plenty of options for getting damage on your opponent's Pokemon, and then Sableye comes in and just does a redonk amount of damage. It's absolutely huge, and it's absolutely great. And don't even worry about the energy, right? We got Weavile. Weavile GX lets you move your energy around as much as you like. Again, if you're using Shrine of Punishment, maybe don't go Weavile. But Weavile just lets you move your energy around. And you can either use Naganadel to accelerate to itself and move it, or you can use that new red and blue supporter we looked at the other day. And red and blue basically just lets you evolve up a GX and then attach 2 energy from your deck to it. So obviously what you do here is you evolve up Weavile using red and blue and immediately attach 2 energy to it, ready to move over. So we've got a lot of options for getting the energy on, and we've got a lot of options for spreading damage, and we've got a really nice first attack. The first attack is not going to lead to junk hunt decks like we used to have them, because it's not as good. But it absolutely will be a nice little bonus, giving you a little bit of extra whatever it is that you want, and then you've got a giant attack to smash. That's what makes Sableye a 4-WOSY card. When I first read the attack, the first one, I got a little bit excited thinking, oh, Junk Hunt's back, and then I read it a bit more and I thought about it and I'm like, you know what, that's not actually the same. But then when you add in the giant second attack and all the support we've got for attacks like that at the moment, and we cool, ladies and gentlemen, we cool. But I'd like to know how cool you think Sableye is, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.